A day that will live in, well, mostly it'll just live. There were some moderately substantial events that occurred here, but finding major events was tough. Of course, a number of interesting things happened, and that's the whole point here, to dig into a single day and see what fun comes out of it. Now, fun, granted, is different for everyone, but in this instance, it's going to be fun for me, because it's my show. But yeah, I've got a bunch of fun shit to share today. Again, entirely subjective, because it's fun to me. That's the whole point here, right? We're going to be talking about, let's see, Palestine, E.T., the fucking Steve Miller Band, some TV reruns, baseball, and really maybe some more sports, because that's all my peanut brain can handle. But as this is the number 1 inaugural episode of Any Given Yesterday, really what's going to happen is you're going to see the banality of this whole thing. And what I think is the beauty of it, of this really dumb idea, which is to take a random day going all the way back to 1/1/1960. So I have a silly little thing that I had AI make for me that basically picks a random day between today and 1/1/1960. And it spits out a day. And then I take that day, I do my research, I pull random crap that I find on the interwebs and talk about it, right? It's a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of history, a little bit of fun, maybe, I don't know. But basically, that's the whole point here. And we're going to try to do this on a somewhat regular basis. The downside is apparently now this is all being recorded, not just audio, but video as well on this platform that I use. I don't care for it. No one needs to see my fat, ugly mug talking into a microphone like an idiot, but whatever. What can you do? So, here we are, moving forward. Episode number 1 of Any Given Yesterday, Wednesday, September 1st, 1982.
Let's go!
All right, hey, welcome, ladies and germs, to the Broadcast Palace. Welcome aboard. Come on in. I got nothing. Anyways, so yeah, as I mentioned, this is going to be, or is, fucking hell, the first episode of Any Given Yesterday. And it's funny, this particular one has taken me way longer to put together than I'm kind of hoping. Mainly because the day that I picked is meh. A solid meh day, and you're going to see a lot of that. But that's the beauty of it, as I said in the intro, right? That is the whole antithesis of the program, is to maybe, shine a light on a particular day that you don't really think much about. And then all of a sudden, something fun happens, right? That's the idea. So here we are, episode 1, and the date we got, September 1st, 1982. Now, of course, as with everything going back to, I think, 1947? Nah, I'm probably wrong with that, but whatever year it was, there are issues in the Middle East here on September 1st, 1982. And one of the big things that came up when I did a search of the day was that good old Ronnie Reagan, Ronald Reagan, the cause of most of our current issues, gave a speech on TV. Yeah, on TV, probably on all 3 channels, huh? Yeah, maybe 4 if PBS got involved. Now, yeah, I don't think any of the old UHF channels were broadcasting live presidential speeches, but who knows? I could be wrong. Anyways, he gave a speech where he, this is where the research comes in, okay? Now, one of the places that I've done research is the New York Times has a great archive where you can basically just go in and you get digital copies of past editions of the newspaper. Now, what I've done is plugged in the date and it spit out a bunch of stuff. And then I take the headline, you can dive into it a little bit, but of course, there's a paywall for everything these days. So then I just Google it and come up with a bunch of shit. Some other things I do is I use AI. As much as I will shit on AI constantly on this program, it does have some uses for the super Google type, function, which in this instance is what it is, because I'm looking up historical information. I need it a little bit more detailed. I need a lot more. And that's where AI comes in. So shout out to Claude, not Claude. We're calling it Claude. Why? It's funnier. But it spit back instantly this Ronald Reagan, Palestine Israeli nonsense that is still here. We are now. What? 44 years later. Yeah. How about that? Roughly. Anyways, in this speech, Ronald Reagan, quote, endorsed, quote, full autonomy, end quote, under some form of Jordanian supervision for Palestinians living in Israeli-occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip, end quote. Thank you, New York Times. Yeah. What? Huh? But he also said, quote, the Palestinian withdrawal from West Beirut was completed. Also demanded a, quote, settlement freeze by Israel, end quote, that would preclude further Jewish settlement in the occupied areas, end quote. Honestly, what the fuck? Ronald Reagan, even if he didn't write it, which he probably didn't, the words came out of his mouth that Palestine should be autonomous. Ronald Reagan. I mean, what the fuck? Really? And we're still dealing with this shit? I don't, for the life of me, it's one of these things that I have never been able to figure out, right? These two sides have been going at it for thousands upon thousands of years, maybe not in the current iterations, but, in general. But, Israel got their panties in a bunch and cried. So that was the end of that. I could go on all day. But as someone who knows next to nothing about next to everything, that really doesn't work. And again, this is one of the things that you'll pick up along the lines with this program is I'm going to talk shit. But not in a bad way. It's really just because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But that's it for that one. So let's move on. There were some other things. I mean, there's some issues in Poland, but, there were issues in Poland around this time. And, most of which I don't still understand. So I'm not even going to talk about it. Right? However, there was one little bit that happened on this day. There was, outside of Sydney, Australia, is a little town called Cronulla. I don't like this video. I keep looking at myself while I'm talking and I don't fucking care for it. Like, my hair looks terrible. I am very tan though. Thank you very much. I just don't care for it. It's annoying. But anyway, in Cronulla, there was an armed robbery at the St. George Building Society. Now, when I first saw that, I said, wow, an armed robbery at a building society. I'm like, what is a building society? Well, I looked it up, and guess what? It's a bank. Yep. It's a bank. I had no idea. But apparently it's a very British thing, very Aussie, Kiwi type thing, building societies where it's a bank that's owned by their customers as opposed to, like a board or private equity or whatever. So, rather interesting. I guess it's not really much of a thing so much anymore, but it's basically a way for folks to save money to buy a home. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. However, during this time in the 80s, this was what I did learn was peak armed robbery era in Australia. And apparently shit like this happened often in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Just random armed robberies, people waltzing into a bank, flashing a weapon of some sort, or maybe not. That's the problem. You can't find much detail. At least I couldn't on this one. And granted, I didn't really go much further because I'm a lazy prick. But this was such commonplace that I guess in one of the local newspapers, it was in page 19 that just kind of tell you how not incredibly important this was, which was like, wow, that's kind of, that's interesting. Like these things happen all the time, or happened all the time, that it didn't even need to be known until page 19 of the paper. Now, for those of you who aren't old enough to remember newspapers, and I hope to Christ that everyone listening to, or God forbid, watching this shit, please don't watch this. Like, just listen to it. Don't watch. Again, nobody needs this. And as I'm hitting the mic, nobody needs this. Trust me when I tell you. Even I don't need this. I love microphones. I like talking into them. I don't want to be on a screen. Fucking hell. Anyways, but apparently these were so common back in the day that there just isn't a ton of information on it. And even the info that I do have, it boils down to what essentially, according to Claude, is, on a single index card that is in a library file in Australia that was digitally uploaded somewhere. But that's the only thing. How wild is that? There were so many bank robberies that we don't really need to tell you too much about them. Now, it was suggested that I reach out to the local New South Wales Historical Society or police department to learn a little bit more about this particular robbery. I thought about it. And then I thought better of it. One thing you're also going to learn is that I have no issues with various sounds and noises that might come from a fat elderly person like myself. So sit back and relax and enjoy the melodies. But yeah, and look, there were CERM. It's another thing you have to get used to. I can't really talk. So, yeah. Early September was a tough time, though. Reaganomics in full swing and not working. So, unemployment was through the fucking roof. Reagan, in typical Republican fashion, basically ignored all the problems of the working man. That's when it started, Apparently, the GOP would lose a shit ton of House seats in the upcoming election. But, unemployment was through the roof, close to 10%. By the time, actually close to 11 by the time I got to the end of the year. And so on September 1, there would be 2 days later, September 3rd, the Labor Department would announce August unemployment rate of 9.8%. Egads. Right? And this is because, manufacturing was being shipped overseas, and because, you had the owners of these large companies, raking in millions and millions of dollars and gutting their their factories and their manufacturing, like, all of those, what became the Rust Belt, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, in some auto-producing towns, unemployment was up over 20%. 20%. Imagine that. Now, look, for you kids that aren't overly familiar with the early 80s, this is where the shit started, right? Because once you started seeing manufacturing being shipped overseas, that was it. Shit changed. Not good. It was, interest rates for mortgages were through the roof, 15, 16, 17%. Like right now, it's like what? I don't know, 6.5, 7, 15, 16%. Apparently at some point it was close to 20. Don't ask me when. But it was impossible. It's gross. That's what it was. Anyways, could keep going, but why? Why bother, right? Let's talk about something fun, shall we? We shall. Anyways, sports. Now, the downside to being September 1st is there really isn't much going on. No basketball, no hockey, no wrestling. It was a Wednesday night. Nothing's going on except baseball. The NFL apparently was in the midst of a lockout, and they started a couple weeks late. Yeah, that's exciting, huh? So glad I mentioned it. However, the old North American Soccer League, the NASL, was in a playoff season. There was a semifinal matchup between the New York Cosmos, and they defeated the Tulsa Rednecks 1-0 behind a goal from Coventry City legend Steve Hunt. Now, here's a fun fact about Steve Hunt. He's apparently a guy who loved Bruce Springsteen so much, he considered changing his last name to Springsteen. Huh? Yeah. Eventually it became Steve Evans. Evans was his uncle's surname. I can't find any more about that, but it's weird. So he went from Steve Hunt to Steve Evans, almost to Steve Springsteen, which, like, alliteration-wise, 10,000 times better. Steve, what are you doing? Like, I could understand if the guy's name was Mike. Huh? Like, the old gag, Mike Hunt, right? Again. Hopefully you kids may or may not know that old joke. But that was a fun one back in the day. Mike Hunt. Come on. Come on. So yeah, the New York Cosmos, they eventually won the league that year. Just riveting stuff, huh? The World Cup just ended yesterday, as I record this on a Monday. Hopefully you're listening on a Monday. If not, that's on you. But, yeah, Spain, huh? They're very good. Defensively, outstanding. Argentina, shit the bed. Poor showing, poor attitudes. Really, you took what was just a simply magnificent tournament all around. With the exception of the U.S. Loss to Belgium and all the fakakta nonsense surrounding that. But anyways, the local 9. Let's talk about the good old Boston Red Sox, because on this night, they did play. They played the Oakland Athletics to a 7-4 win for the Sox. Huh? 7-4. 1982 has always been a bit of a blind spot, like 80, 81, 82, 83, kind of a blind spot in that, they were good, but they weren't good enough. Yaz retired in 83. Boggs actually started in 82. There were still a lot of good players. Rice, Evans, excellent players. But, yeah, I was also a wee lad. We'll get to that later. 89 wins for the Red Sox in 1982. Very well could win the division these days, but in 82 is good for third place in the Eastern Division. Yeah, Eastern Division. They were 6 games behind the Brew Crew. Now, the lineup this night, listen to this, at least, the first however many plays, but Jerry Remy, the immortal Jerry Remy, led off. Now, he was I guess you could call him like a mediocre ball player, yeah? Yes, for what he was. But Jerry Remy this night had 2 doubles. He went 3 for 6. 3 for 6 for the Rem Dog. Raised his average to 284. Whew. Pretty good. Most of the lineup had a pretty good night, with the exception of Dwight Evans, who hit second. He was 0 for 5 with 2 Ks. Not good, Dewey. Not good at all. Hitting third was Jim Rice. Played left, 2 for 4. Drove in a run. He walked, and he struck out. That is like the quintessential Jim Rice night. Right? 2 for 4, a walk, a strikeout, a run batted in. Perfect. Yaz hit fourth. He clean up. He was also 2 for 4 with a walk and an RBI. He did not strike out. He was 40. How old was he here? 41 or 40? I don't know. Let's see. He was 42. Here's another fun fact about this program. It's just going to be a lot of riffing as I'm just kind of going through stuff and looking stuff up. It's a very live format. That's how we roll here on the show. And I'm going to use we quite often, even though it's just me. Now, and also because this is the first episode, there's going to be very little structure. And that'll probably continue down the road. But we'll talk a little bit more about that down the road. So yeah, Yaz was hitting cleanup that night, 2 for 4. But the big producer of the evening was Carney Lansford. Oakland A's great Carney Lansford, who started with the Red Sox. 3 for 4. He had a double. He had a homer. Solo shot, though. Not that impressive. Drove in a run. Scored twice. So, yeah, good stuff for Lansford. Yeah, homer, double, RBI, 2 runs scored, and a walk. Pretty good. After Carney Lansford hitting 6 was Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs playing first, mainly because Carney Lansford played third. How about that? Yeah. Boggs went 1 for 4, drove in a run. And at this point, he was hitting 366. That's fantastic. The rest of the lineup, Reed Nichols in center, Dave Stapleton at short, Gary Allenson behind the plate. Your starting pitcher that evening. Well, let's talk about the A's a bit. Right? The A's, there's a bunch of guys here that I'm not intimately familiar with, but there are some. Jeff Burrows played left, and he got on base, and then he was immediately substituted. Ricky Henderson came in as the pinch hitter, and then promptly was caught stealing, which did not happen very often to Ricky Henderson in the early 80s. Fun stuff. Tony Armas The only man in sports with 4 body parts as a name. He went 1 for 4, drove in a run. Rest of the lineup, I don't know these guys. Wayne Gross at first, Mike Heath at third, Dave McKay at second. Jeff Newman was the catcher, and Jimmy Sexton was your shortstop, hitting 9th. And then the starting pitcher that night for the A's was a gentleman by the name of Steve McCatty. Mick Caddy, C-A-T-T-Y. I only know about McCatty because he stuck around for a while. He's just one of those guys that, like, he kind of... I remember the name from baseball cards in the early 80s. That's it. And I just thought his name was funny. Steve McCatty. But he was a decent player. Finished second in Cy Young voting in 1981. How about that? Yeah. He lost to Raleigh Fingers. That's right. He lost the Cy Young to Raleigh Fingers, a relief pitcher who had a whopping 28 saves that year. That's so funny. Like, if you look at here, okay, I enjoyed this. If you look at the Cy Young voting for both leagues, okay, so Raleigh Fingers was the winner, okay. Steve McCatty was second, Jack Morris third, Pete Vukovich, also with the Brewers. Raleigh Fingers was playing with the Brewers at the time. He finished fourth, and then Rich Gossage, Dennis Martinez, Britt Burns, Ron Guidry, Larry Gura. Those are the top 10 vote getters, okay? The only vote, they got all the votes, all right? Now, on the National League side, the winner, Fernando Valenzuela. Like, his fucking numbers are through the roof, but he was only 13-7. How banana land is that? Like, when you compare these National League vote getters to the American League, I mean, night and day. Behind Valenzuela, pretty close, Tom Seaver, followed by Steve Carlton, followed by Nolan Ryan, followed by Bruce Sutter. Those are the only 5 guys that got votes. What? Like, what a massive difference between the two leagues. Nolan Ryan, okay, he finished 11-5, with a 1.69 ERA in 21 starts. I mean, just wait a minute. This is 81. What the fuck? See what I mean? I'm talking about 80. I forgot I was talking about 81. Oh, David. That's what I get for clicking on Steve McCatty. At any rate, it really showed the difference between the two leagues. So, all right, back to our actual program. Boy, I'm off to a fucking just a bang-up start now. Anyways, the starter for the Red Sox this night was a guy named Brian Denman. Denman, followed by Bob Stanley, and then Mark Clear, the immortal Mark Clear, came in and got the save. Stanley got kind of lit up. 1 run, 4 hits, 2 earned. Not good. And 2 walks. Ugh, God, gross. But the starter, Brian Denman. Now, I had to look this up because no fucking clue who this guy was. None. And I said, well, all right, well, who's this guy? So my research on him yielded very little, admittedly. He played 1 year of Major League Ball. It was with the Red Sox in 1982. This night, 6 innings, 2 earned, 1 strikeout, 1 walk, and that right there is a quality start. He was an average pitcher. He finished 9-9 with a 4.76 on the season. He was, not not the best, certainly not the worst. He debuted August 22nd, 1982, and his last game in the big leagues was October 2nd, 1982, a complete game, 6-hit shutout against the Yankees. And he never pitched in the majors again. What a weird, just an entirely weird turn of events, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm fascinated now. I need to do a little bit more work. Well, Brian Denman, he was from outside Minneapolis, Minnesota. He, if you are a keen observer on the history of the Cape Cod Baseball League, you may know that Brian Denman was an all-star in 1977 for the Cotuit Kettleers, and actually was the winning pitcher at the All-Star game at Fenway Park in 1977. Also of note that day, Steve Balboni hit 2 home runs. So there you go. But after 1982, he kind of hung around the minors. Like he wasn't good enough to get the call again. And how about this? The only reason that he got the call in the first place is because Bobby Ojeda slipped and fell in the shower. Quote, unquote. Bobby Ojeda. Anyways, Denman, bounced around the minors. Bunch of, played like complete seasons with the Paw Sox in Pawtucket. He played for the hard-hitting New Britain team. He was a very good pitcher on the Bristol Red Sox in the earlier 80s, which is how he got the call up in 82 to begin with. But basically, after some time spent with the Nashville Sounds, he kind of vanished. Thankfully, I found one article on this guy. One. From 2020. And I meant to call out the author's name. Now, this is a super niche website, the Society for American Baseball Research. A guy by the name of Bill Nolan, or Nowlin. He's the one that interviewed and wrote the article in 2020. And basically, actually, it may have even been done before that. Author interview with Brian Denman. No, okay. May 23rd, 2020. I didn't have, What am I doing here? Let's see. Ooh, a lot of old Peter Gammons articles. Ooh. That's funny. Came from a rather interesting background. Growing up in Minnesota in the 60s, basically. His father was an over-the-road truck driver for Land O'Lakes Creamery out of Minneapolis. Yeah, that's it. But honestly, the worst part about this, okay, is, I understand what the guy's trying to do when he wrote this piece and when he talked to him. Want to learn a little bit about the guy. Brian Denman gave him so little, and it's so depressing. Quote, my father drove a semi. He was gone Monday through Friday doing his runs. My mother was home just basically to take care of the family. Honestly, my parents were weekend alcoholics. End quote. What a fucking phrase that is. Weekend alcoholics. I know so many of those people. Quote, he'd come home on a Friday and they'd be at the VFW. And then he'd dry out on Sunday. Don't get me wrong, he was a great provider. End quote. Oh my God. Then he goes into his brother who had childhood diabetes at 10 and just died. What? Oh man. Like, how about that? What a depressing story. And then it's just, he talks about he had another older brother who was very good at sports. But he couldn't handle the home life because apparently it was that bad. 2 weeks before this guy was supposed to graduate from high school, he joined the Marines. So he's like, I can't hold out for 2 more weeks. I'm going to go join the Marine Corps. What? Yikes, buddy. Brian went on to the University of Minnesota. He got a scholarship. Drafted by the Red Sox in January 1978, what was then known as the secondary draft. And he was the 13th overall selection. He does mention that he was drafted previously in the 14th round in 1977 by the then California Angels as a first baseman, but he didn't sign. He says, quote, I had some legal problems at the time, and once I got drafted, they never really pursued me too hard, end quote. What the fuck? And then he went out to Catuit. Probably stirred some shit up in Catuit too, huh? I bet he did. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, he just couldn't hang on after that. After his season in 1982. And then there was a battle in spring training the following year between Denman and Al Nipper. Apparently they called up Al Nipper. And Al was the one that, got his spot. Yeah, crazy. But this guy never got another chance. Just never got another chance in the big leagues. And it's, you kind of look back on it and you see these guys with just mediocre numbers all throughout this time, like in the 80s, early to mid 80s, and you think to yourself, how the fuck did these guys stick around? They had something a little bit more than Brian Denman. Brian Denman really could have played for 6, 7, 8 years. But there was something. There was always something ahead of him. There was just something. And every quote you read about here is that he was just a hard-nosed winner. He knew how to win, except he also knew how to fucking give up runs in dozens. Eek, man. He eventually went to Detroit. Couldn't really do much there. In 86, he had a chance to make the roster. He thought he played pretty well. And then Sparky Anderson's like, yeah, no, it's all right. Like, he asked him, hey, why? Why are you sending me down? Denman said, quote, no special reason, Brian. You threw as well as anybody else. It's just the direction we're going to go in, end quote. Basically, it's like, hey, you're fucking mush, Denman. I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but Jesus. He was about 31 at the time, and that's when he wrapped up. He met his wife in Buffalo, of all places. They still live in Buffalo. But I guess his kids, a bunch of his kids, as of 2020, all lived in the Boston area. One daughter in Saugus, one daughter in Waltham. Eventually moved to Quincy. Another daughter that's worked at Mass General, and then down in Fall River. How about that? Denman went on to become a FedEx driver for 17 years. And then as of the publication here in 2020, he was working for an electrical company, delivering electrical parts and stuff, as he called it. His wife worked as a server at Denny's 20-something years. The life of a mediocre ball player. Like, I'm telling you, that's another thing that kids really don't realize is that pro athletes, probably from, I would say, late 80s, maybe mid 80s, Anything before that, if you weren't good enough to stick for like a few years, this is what your life became. Working for FedEx, slinging pancakes at Denny's. Like that's the kind of shit that you get into if you were only slightly worse than another relief pitcher. The agony of being that close to an extended major league pro baseball career, right? Like Sparky Anderson had no fucking reason, most likely. He probably flipped a coin between Denman and some other guy to see who they were going to keep around. Or, one time this guy went and got me a pack of smokes. Denman didn't want to. So fuck him. He's gone. Like that's probably how the decision was made. 25th guy on the roster. Flip a coin. Brutal. Right? That's the shit that I like doing this stupid show, is that you dive into this crap, this just nonsense of this random guy from a random day. I need to do a better job presenting this, but this is the kind of crap that I think is interesting. There's other crap. Like we could talk way more about, the other games that day, but what's the point, Yeah. I mean, honestly, I could spend all day diving into these old games and these old box scores. Like just as an example, as a singular example, the Padres, they played the Pirates this day in San Diego at the old Jack Murphy Stadium in front of 6,814 people. The game lasted 2 hours and 11 minutes. Oh my God. It's just, it's funny. Like this is the crap that I find amusing. Like the winning pitcher for the Padres that day, Juan Eckelberger. I know very little about Juan other than his name. The losing pitcher for the Pirates, Rick Rhoden, exceptional golfer. Great golfer. Like a legitimately good golfer. The guy who led the offense for San Diego that day, Joe Lefevre, he went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Playing first base for the San Diego Padres that particular day was none other than the legend himself, Rick Lancelotti. That's right. Rick Lancelotti. This guy hung on for what seemed like forever. He played 15 years of pro ball, including ending his career in the early 90s in Pawtucket, which is how I even know the name Rick Lancelotti. Guy could mash. Like legitimately, he could mash. He had 268 home runs in the minor leagues over 13 seasons. And he played for, that's a lot of teams. Rick Lancelotti. That's so great. He also played played in Japan, 87 and 88 for the Hiroshima Toyo Carp. That's right. Anywho. So that's sports, mostly baseball. Again, this is where these things can just drag out. But we're gonna wrap sports right there. All right, so if you weren't watching baseball that evening, chances are you were. You may have spent some time with some primetime TV, though apparently it was nothing but reruns on this night because the TV season generally did not get started until after school started. That's just what I think. That's probably dead wrong, but I could be right. I could be wrong. Families were probably gathered together talking about their days, maybe playing a game or two, had a nice home-cooked multi-course dinner, and then retired to bed around 9 p.m. Or they sat around and watched some awesome reruns. ABC was the king of the night. Okay, now look, there were 3 networks at the time, kids. Again, kids, there were 3 networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And on this particular evening, ABC ruled the roost. 8 p.m., Greatest American Hero. 9 p.m., The Fall Guy. 10 p.m., Dynasty. That's the kind of lineup you can't get these days. You're not getting that. Greatest American Hero was a horrifically dumb show. But I loved it because it was just so stupid. Like, the theme song was excellent, and that's what you're going to see here, right? The theme song for Greatest American Hero, dynamite. The theme song for The Fall Guy, even better. And even the theme song for Dynasty, catchy. Instrumental, but catchy. The best part, though, is The Fall Guy. I fucking loved The Fall Guy. Big fan. Lee Majors was a fucking cool dude. He's still a cool dude. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. Hold on. Lee Majors. Unless he's died recently. Let's see. Lee Majors, still alive. 87 years old. Oh. Now, at the time, when did he... Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on. Lee Majors, to his credit, married Farrah Fawcett. To his credit. Yeah. This guy, what? All right. Oh, this is so great. See, this is the kind of crap that, oh my God, Lee Majors. Okay, so not only was he married to Farrah Fawcett, who was a certifiable smoke show, right? His current wife is a dime. She's 51, which is right up my alley. She is a beautiful woman. Oh my God. Now, granted, she is currently 36 years younger than our friend Lee Majors. She was a model. His previous wife was a woman named Karen Velez, who was, Playmate of the Month, December 1984, and then was Playmate of the Year for 1985. Egads. That's wild. Oh, and then she passed. Oh, she was so young. She was only 62. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. Playmate of the Year, 1985, Karen Velez. Lee Majors. 3 kids. Nikki Majors, and then twin boys, Dane Majors and Trey Majors. Terrible names. Sorry, terrible names. So yeah, wow. Lee Majors could slay, huh? How about that? What? No, that's not true. That can't be right. I'm not even going to bring that up. That's so bad. If you want a good laugh, go check out Lee Majors' Instagram page. Lee Majors, the stage name for Harvey Lee Yeary. Oh, good. I'm glad he went to Lee Majors. Oof, man, that's crazy. This is so great. Again, this show is if you we're just bopping around the internet and you got caught down various rabbit holes. That's what this show is. right? Except it all stems from one single day. The downside is give it a few, I don't know, days, and it's going to get old real fast. But for now, we're talking about Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man, the Fall Guy. Fall Guy, what a great show. Like a legitimately, well, okay, maybe not a great show, but a very good show. Colt Seavers. What a fucking name that is, huh? Colt Seavers, a Hollywood stuntman who moonlights as a bounty hunter. They tried to do this with, they did the Fall Guy with, what's his name? Shit, I can't remember the fucking name of the goddamn movie, of the actor. It's gonna bother me. It was Ryan Gosling. God. Anyways, look, I saw that movie. I think I watched it on a plane. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen it, you should see it. Lee Majors is in it, briefly, but it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that film. It was a fun popcorn movie. Really had nothing to do with the show other than, he was Colt Seavers, Hollywood stuntman. But good stuff. I hope they make another one because it has legs. The Fall Guy. The other really good part about The Fall Guy was Heather Thomas. Yo. And if you're a man of a certain age, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yo. So, number one movie at the time was E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Now, I will stand by my lifelong review of this film. Meh. The number one song was probably Abracadabra by the goddamn Steve Miller Band. Now, the guy was great at writing catchy songs with the worst fucking lyrics and being a prick. That's Steve Miller personified. And Abracadabra, shit song. Okay, I want to abracadabra, I want to reach out and grab you. It was really all about what every other song is about, which is probably fucking. I feel the magic in your caress. I feel magic when I touch your dress. Silk and satin, leather and lace, black panties with an angel face. Whoa, panties? Steve? You scamp. But yeah, apparently he's a fucking prick, which doesn't shock me somehow. I'm not sure. I guess it is own, and I don't remember this, and I'm kind of mad that I don't remember this, but in 2016, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and basically just shit all over the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay. Take a number, pal. That's a very long list of people he's complaining about. Well, they don't do this and they don't do that. Well, yeah. It's a business, Stephen. And the Black Keys inducted him. He wanted Elton John to induct him. And the Rock Hall was like, what? No, dude, you're Steve Martin. Steve Miller. If it was Steve Martin, they would have said yes. I guess they didn't induct the Steve Miller Band. They just inducted Steve Miller. And he was pissed about it. And so, initially I'm thinking, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's the Steve Miller Band, not just Steve Miller. And then I looked in to see how many guys were in the Steve Miller Band. Over the course of its history from 1968, I think is when it started, 30 plus members. Now look, I can't pretend to tell the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame how to go about their business. However, I get it. Especially if this guy's just been a whiny prick throughout the entirety of his career, which basically is what he is. Every interview is just him whining and complaining. And then after this whole thing, he was just bitching about how the band wasn't inducted and that they were going to charge $10,000 per ticket beyond the two that he was given for the event. So he said, hey, how about tickets for my band? They said, no, it'll be $10K a piece. Well, yeah, because that's a shitload of money, Steve. We're talking, what, $300,000? I ain't doing the math right? I don't know. Not the point. But every other interview is just like him whining and complaining. Like, dude, you made a really good living writing catchy shit songs, yet you complain about everything. And as someone who complains often, I have a hard time trying to figure out what his issue is. Like, he's been wronged by someone and feels aggrieved. I just don't know who that is. I'm sure he's not alone in thinking that the record industry has screwed him or her over. So get in line, bub, right? Steve Miller. Yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, there you go. Number one song, September 1, 1982. All right, so that's pretty much like the gist of the program, right? And ultimately, I don't really know how long this is being. I don't know how long this is, mainly because the format of recording this now is so much different than when I was putting out the pilots that I don't know how this is going to go. I used to be able to just record audio. Now it doesn't seem as if I can do that. Why? I don't know. I don't care for it. But September 1, 1982. I was a very young boy at the time. Very young boy. Probably preparing to enter schooldom, I think. I think I started preschool at 4. I'm not sure. I was, like 4.5-ish at the time. So I think, if I recall correctly, I went to ABC Preschool in Taunton, Massachusetts. Tiny little single room red building that had a playground like right next to it. I remember it vividly. They also had a great Sesame Street, Sesame Street, great Sesame Street, like Weebles Playhouse. Remember Weebles? Again, kids, little toys, small toys with no arms, no legs, and a head. They were plastic. They were called Weebles. Weebles wobble, but they never fall. Anyways, they had a great Weebles Sesame Street Playhouse that I remember vividly. The other thing I remember vividly about ABC Preschool was the playground had this, like a fireman's pole. Like you climbed up, then you went on the pole. However, they used to say that we couldn't climb it, we couldn't use it because of, quote, splinters, end quote. Now, granted, everything was metal. Come to find out, it was flaking paint that would cause a splinter, not wooden splinters. See that? Fascinating stuff, huh? So I only got to use that thing maybe once or twice, but yeah, ABC Preschool. Good times. Handful of kids that I went to that place with, that I grew up with. Handful. Yeah. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, maybe like 4 or 5. There's probably only about 20 of us or so in this classroom. I was friends with I made friends with a kid, and this is, do you have one of those memories from this age, like 4 or 5 years old? Everybody has them. Okay. And it's just a weird, entirely innocuous memory. And I think I talked about this during one of the pilot episodes here, was that I was invited to a birthday party and I thought it was for my friend Josh, but it wasn't. And I showed up to Josh's house, knocked on the door for hey, it's your birthday party. I'm here to celebrate. And like his mom answered the door, and they were just eating hamburgers. There was no party because I had the wrong house, but I don't know. I don't know what house it was. I don't. And it's funny. All I remember is that moment of his mother opening the door, me realizing that there's no birthday party and that they were eating hamburgers. And again, not cheeseburgers, but hamburgers. Why? I don't know. I don't know why that memory is what it is. But apparently it made such an impact on me that here I am now fucking 44 years later. And I can still vividly see this. It's wild. Anyways. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep these at about an hour or so. I don't really want to go too much further than that. I don't know how this is going to sound. I don't know how this is going to look. I do know that like the uploading process for this seems to be taking fucking forever. So while I did want to get this out on Monday, who knows if it's even going to come out on Monday? I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to get to do this again. I'm going to try to do another one next week, but then the following week I'm away for 3 weeks. I know. Honestly. Yeah. And yeah. So, but that's basically how it's going to go. I'm just going to talk about shit that happened on that day, around that day. The hope is that I'm a bit more prepared, but at the same time, I kind of like the aspect of just deviating from it, right? And then the idea, hopefully, is that there are people that want to join the show that I can have these types of conversations with and basically like give them the date. Hey, here's the date that the random date generator gave me. Take it, do your research. I'll do mine. And then we'll just hook up. We'll get together and we'll just, vibe and kind of make something happen, make a conversation happen. So if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this and you'd like to be part of whatever the fuck this is, let me know. Let's have at it, right? Let's gab. Let's have a coffee klitsch. Let's have a chin wag. We'll talk about shit that happened on a random day. It'll be fun. And that's the idea, right? Now, again, I'm not 100% sure when this is going to happen again, but it will happen. And when it does, it'll be equally as boring, I promise. But another thing that I'm going to try to do at the end of every program. Now, if you are a long-time listener of my bullshit, then you know full well that I had a podcast before, Complaints and Observations. I had some long-time loyal listeners, all morons. Every single one of you. But at the end of every episode, I had my 3 gripes where I just complained about random shit. I'm not going to do that anymore. But what I am going to do is today's grievance. Now, this is going to be just a random, one-off grievance complaint, not associated with this particular date, but just something that's on my mind. Now, today's grievance, just got back from a wonderful holiday in Barbados to celebrate the birth of my darling wife, Jennifer. As you can tell, I am quite tan right now. And pleased with myself. If you're watching this, you can see it. If you're not, then fuck you. I have a tan. Barbados in the middle of July, not the best idea, but great time. Outstanding island. Nice people as long as you weren't on the resort. And just mostly sunny and hot. There's a couple instances of the quick Caribbean rain shower, which is always fun. But as with most things, I have a myriad of complaints, but nothing that I want to discuss at length before addressing them directly with the resort. I say that because the Stewart family that owns Sandals Resorts are probably avid listeners of this program, even though they have no idea it exists. So my grievance today is going to be about fellow guests. Now, why do so many Americans travel and act as if they're still at home? This is something that bothers me, all right? And it just goes to show you how how dumb the majority of our population really is. Now, I am a moron. Okay? I will be the first to admit that. However, I'm going to absolutely stereotype not just an entire region, as it's almost always someone from the south of the Mason-Dixon line, but just, in general. Now, in this instance, there were a ton of people from the Boston area. Why? I don't know, because they follow me around like the fucking plague, for Christ's sakes. But I mean, there was just so many people here. Like, there was an instance, and I wish I'd written this down. There was a woman at the bar. Now, she was not from Boston. She was definitely from that previously mentioned area south of the Mason-Dixon line. This idiot goes to the bar, and like, her drink order was so fucking stupid. Like, half shot of this, dash of this. It's like, where the fuck do you think you are, lady? And it was like 7 ingredients in her drink, and she's trying to explain this to one of the bartenders who's slinging rum drinks to a bunch of drunk assholes. Meanwhile, this fucking broad has to have everything exactly the way that she wants it. Come up with something else. Drink something else, right? You don't have to do it this way. It's just not necessary. So don't do it. But that's not even really my biggest issue. I'm at this, there's a French coffee shop that's on the property, and I was in there to order an espresso. But of course, the machine was broken for 2 straight days. So, do you hear what I'm saying, Sandals? What the fuck? A coffee shop with a broken espresso machine for 2 days. Get your shit together. There was a guy in front of me, though. And I swear on a stack of Bibles, if I was religious, it would, mean something. But this fucking guy, he asked the server, quote, "Do you know where I can get a sub?" End quote. A sub. That's right. Like a fucking sub. This moron walked into a coffee shop. Now, the coffee shop has ice cream, pastries, and coffee. This dickhead asked where he could get a sub. I immediately start looking around. I'm like, is there a camera here? Am I on some sort of fucking prank show? He asked, where can I get a sub? Now, the lady had no fucking clue because, of course, she's from Barbados. Like, what made this guy think that this woman, who was probably in her 40s or 50s, knew what a fucking sub was? Okay, now, is there a chance that she did? Of course. Of course. What are the odds? There's slim and there's none. So he's trying to now explain to her what a sub is, because she looks at him and is like, a sub? Yeah, like a sub sandwich is what he said. And he takes his hands, right? And he spreads them out, to describe the length of the sub sandwich. And then she replies, a sandwich? Question mark. But she is not following along. So instead of just laughing it off and saying, yeah, where I live, long sandwiches are called a submarine. Nope. He just stands there with his fucking dumb mouth open. Yeah, a sub. Listen, Sully, she doesn't know what a fucking sub is. Eventually, he just kind of like frustratingly turned around and walked out. I get up to the counter, and I just look at the woman, and I'm like, sorry about that. I don't know what he was talking about. I can't say I blame you. And I left it alone because I didn't want to dive into it. Probably get the joke. Sub dive. No. This was just the most ridiculous example. But look, as someone who's been lucky enough to travel a bit, like going to a new place and not trying to assimilate in even the smallest way is something that I just cannot fathom, right? Like, we're at an all-inclusive resort, okay? This is not like the epitome of Barbadian culture, okay? In fact, there was very little Barbadian culture aside from the actual staff, which was, add that to my list. Like, just food. What? You can't give me like just a dish or two? Come on now. Anyways, you should realize your surroundings. You should have a fucking clue when you travel someplace so that you can't look like a dumb, ugly American. Unfortunately, the place was crawling with them. Thankfully, I am not ugly at all. I'm handsome as fuck, okay? Even handsomer now because I'm just golden brown. Yeah. And I'm also smart enough to know that when I'm in a foreign country, I need to not act like an idiot. Look like an idiot? Sure, no problem. But act like one? Come on now. Anyways, that's the grievance for the day. So that's going to do it for the program. That's episode 1 in the books. And I hope it didn't suck. I hope you didn't hate it. If you did, that's fine. But give me some feedback. I'm not even sure if this is going to work properly. We'll see. All of this is allegedly being recorded, and all of this will allegedly be shared out on your preferred podcast provider. Now, where is that phone number? I do have a phone line. Nope, that's not it. I don't want that. I can't find it. There it is. All right. Yes. No. Yes. I don't want that. I want this one. Is it this one or is it the other one? Shit. 617. Nope, that's not it. It is 617, but hold on. Why can't I find the phone number? Ugh. You know what? Forget I even brought it up because I can't remember the number. Let's see. Let me try something else. No. This is where I need. Okay. 617-657-4736. 617-657-4736. That's the voicemail line. Call in, leave a voicemail. If you have any memories of September 1st, 1982, let me know. I'm 10,000% certain that I'm going to get one that may or may not be truthful, but still not the point. It'll be fun. Call in. What else did I have to say? No, that's it. So listen, hopefully, it didn't suck that bad. If it did, please let me know. If it didn't, please let me know. Tell your friends. You're going to hear that a lot. Please tell your friends, especially if they're over the age of like 40. Tell them they might enjoy this random crap. And again, if you have any interest, you want to be on the show, let me know. If you don't, tell me to fuck off. Or whatever. I don't know. Feedback is best, and I'm going to share it around. We're going to see what kind of response we get out of this, and we're going to go from there. Okay. But until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and Godspeed. Ta-ta.